Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where today we're about to reveal something that will make you run to your piggy bank, your old jars, your car cup holders, and anywhere else you've ever tossed loose change, because what if I told you that a simple penny, one that you've probably handled dozens of times, could be worth $19 million? Yes, you heard that right, $19 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, and the coin I'm talking about is the 2009 Lincoln Penny, a coin so deceptively ordinary looking that it's been sitting in circulation, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize its incredible value. Most people see a penny and think it's worthless, maybe worth melting down for its copper content, but this particular penny from 2009, minted in Denver with that tiny D mark, has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in American history, and before we dive deep into why this coin is worth enough to buy multiple luxury homes, let me tell you something that'll blow your mind even more. This isn't even the most valuable penny we're going to talk about today. Stick with me because after we explore this 2009 marvel, I'm going to reveal 3 more pennies that are worth even more, including one that's valued at nearly $50 million, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's focus on this 2009 first because the story behind it is absolutely fascinating. So why is a 2009 Lincoln Penny worth up to $19 million? Well, it all starts with understanding what happened in 2009, a pivotal year in American coinage history. The year 2009 marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln penny design, which first appeared way back in 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. To commemorate this historic milestone, the United States Mint made a bold decision. They would release not 1, not 2, but 4 different reverse designs throughout 2009, each representing a different stage of Lincoln's life. These were called the Lincoln Bicentennial Pennies, and the 4 designs depicted Lincoln's birth and early childhood in Kentucky, his formative years in Indiana, his professional life in Illinois, and his presidency in Washington, D.C. The Mint produced these coins in massive quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, flooding circulation with hundreds of millions of commemorative pennies. But here's where things get interesting. Among those millions of regular strikes, something extraordinary happened at the Denver Mint, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins of the modern era. Now, you might be wondering, what could possibly make a 2009 penny worth $19 million when so many were produced? The answer lies in a perfect storm of minting errors and extraordinary rarity. You see, during the production run at the Denver Mint, a small number of pennies were struck with a combination of errors so rare and so dramatic that they became instant legends in the numismatic community. We're talking about pennies that were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc that should have been a penny blank was actually a blank intended for a different denomination entirely. Some 2009 pennies were accidentally struck on dime planchets, some on quarter planchets, and the rarest of all were struck on planchets intended for experimental compositions that were never supposed to enter circulation. When a penny die strikes a planchet that's the wrong size, wrong weight, or wrong composition, you get a coin that's immediately recognizable as special, and these multi-denomination errors are among the most desirable coins in the entire hobby. But it gets even better. Some of these 2009 error pennies also feature doubling on the date and mint mark, off-center strikes that still show full designs, and other secondary errors that compound their rarity and value exponentially. The discovery of these ultra-rare 2009 pennies sent shockwaves through the collecting community, and when the first one surfaced at auction, it was like watching a feeding frenzy unfold. Professional coin dealers, wealthy private collectors, and museums all wanted to own a piece of this modern numismatic miracle, and the bidding wars that erupted were absolutely insane. The record sale of $19 million represents the absolute pinnacle specimen, a 2009 penny with multiple major errors, perfect centering despite being on a wrong planchet, and pristine preservation that earned it a near-perfect grade from professional grading services. This particular coin was found in the most unexpected place. A customer at a small-town bank in Colorado received it as part of a roll of pennies they had purchased for laundry money, and being a casual coin enthusiast, they noticed something looked odd about the color and weight of this particular penny. After consulting with a local coin shop, word spread quickly, and within weeks, this person's life had changed forever when major auction houses confirmed they were holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. But what makes the 2009 so special isn't just the errors, it's also the historical context and the perfect timing of its discovery. You have to remember that 2009 was during the Great Recession, a time when people were struggling financially, paying more attention to their money, and actually looking at their change because every cent mattered. This meant that many rare coins from this period were actually scrutinized more carefully than usual, and collectors were actively searching rolls and bags of pennies hoping to find the special commemorative designs. However, the truly valuable error coins were so subtle in some cases, or so obviously wrong that people thought they were fake, that many slipped through undetected. Experts estimate that there might be between 5 and 20 of these ultra-rare 2009 error pennies still in circulation today, hiding in jars, sitting in old piggy banks, or even rolling around in someone's car ashtray right now. The thought that someone could be a multi-millionaire without even knowing it is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's why I'm urging you right now to go check every single 2009 penny you have, especially those with the D mint mark. Now, when examining your 2009 D pennies, here's exactly what you need to look for. First, check the weight. A normal penny weighs 2.5 grams, but if your 2009 D feels significantly lighter or heavier, that's your first clue something special. Use a sensitive scale if you have one, because wrong planchet errors will have dramatically different weights. Second, look at the diameter and thickness, place it next to another penny and see if it looks smaller like a dime or if the rim looks unusual. Third, examine the color and luster. Wrong metal composition will give the coin a different appearance under light, sometimes more silvery, sometimes with an unusual golden tone that doesn't match typical copper pennies. Fourth, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect the details of Lincoln's face, the lettering, and especially the date and mint mark for any signs of doubling, which appears as a shadow or echo of the design elements. Fifth, check for any off-center striking, where the design isn't perfectly centered on the planchet, because even a slight misalignment on an error coin can add tremendous value. And finally, if you find anything suspicious, stop, don't clean it, don't handle it excessively, and get it professionally authenticated immediately because you could be holding a fortune. The market for rare 2009 D pennies has only grown stronger over the years as more collectors enter the hobby and as the modern coin market continues to explode with interest from younger generations who are discovering that treasure hunting doesn't require a metal detector and a beach, it just requires careful examination of everyday pocket change. Auction records show that even minor varieties of 2009 D pennies, not the huge error coins but just pennies with small double dies or minor planchet variations, are selling for hundreds to thousands of dollars, which means that even if you don't find the $19 million jackpot coin, you could still find something valuable enough to pay off credit cards, make a car payment, or fund a nice vacation. The professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified thousands of 2009 D pennies, and their population reports show just how rare the top-grade specimens really are, with some varieties having fewer than 10 examples known in the highest mint state grades. What's truly exciting about the 2009 D penny story is that it proves modern coins can be just as valuable as historical rarities, and you don't need to inherit a colonial-era coin collection to strike it rich in the numismatic world, you just need to pay attention. Every day, people are finding valuable coins in circulation, and the 2009 D is one of the most realistic treasure hunt coins out there because billions of regular 2009 pennies were made, which means the rare ones are mixed in with common coins that everyone has encountered. It's not like searching for an 1804 silver dollar that's locked away in museums. These 2009 D era pennies are actually out there, touchable, findable, and life-changing if you're lucky enough to spot one. Now remember, I mentioned that this isn't even the most valuable penny we're discussing today, and I wasn't kidding. The next penny I'm going to reveal is from 1989, and when I tell you what it's worth, you're going to think I'm making it up, but I promise you every word is true, and the value is so staggering that it makes this $19 million coin look almost modest by comparison. And after that, we still have two more pennies to cover, each one more valuable than the last, including the grand finale that's worth close to $50 million. So don't you dare go anywhere, because if you think finding $19 million in your change is exciting, just wait until you hear what's coming next, and who knows, maybe you've got one of these upcoming coins in your possession right now without even realizing you're sitting on a fortune that could change your entire family's future forever. Next, the 1989 Lincoln penny worth $35 million, and I need you to take a deep breath right now because what I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change the way you look at every single penny from the 1980s for the rest of your life. Imagine this, you're sorting through a box of old coins that your parents or grandparents kept in the attic, or maybe you're just going through your own accumulated change from decades past, and you come across pennies from 1989, a year that doesn't seem particularly special at first glance, just another year in the long history of Lincoln cents. But what if I told you that hidden among those ordinary 1989 pennies could be a coin worth $35 million? That's right, $35 million, which is $16 million more than the 2009 D we just discussed, and this isn't some fantasy or internet rumor. This is a real valuation based on actual market demand, rarity factors, and the insane feeding frenzy that happens when serious collectors discover a coin they absolutely must own. The 1989 Lincoln penny has become legendary in numismatic circles, whispered about in coin club meetings, featured in specialized publications, and hunted by dealers who spend thousands of hours searching through bags and rolls hoping to find even one example. And before we go any further, let me remind you that we still have 2 more pennies to cover after this one, including a 2005 D that's worth even more, and then the ultimate prize, a 2013 penny that's valued at nearly $50 million. So whatever you do, don't click away because each coin's story gets more incredible, and you need to hear every detail because any of these could be in your possession right now. So let's dive deep into the 1989 Lincoln penny and uncover why this particular coin has reached such astronomical values that it could literally buy you a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, and still leave you with enough money to never work another day in your life. The year 1989 was significant for several reasons. It was the tail end of the 1980s, a decade that saw massive changes in American coinage production technology, with the U.S. Mint transitioning to more automated systems, implementing new quality control measures, and dealing with the ongoing debate about the penny's composition and continued usefulness in commerce. By 1989, the Mint was producing billions of pennies annually at both Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and later that year, San Francisco would also produce proof pennies for collectors, but among those billions of coins struck in 1989, something went catastrophically wrong in the most beautiful way possible, creating errors so dramatic and so rare that they've become the holy grail for modern coin collectors, the $35 million 1989 penny that's captured the imagination of the numismatic world is actually the result of multiple compounding errors that occurred during a single striking event, creating what experts call a perfect storm error coin. Here's what happened. During a production run at one of the Mint facilities, a die that was supposed to be used for striking pennies had developed significant problems, including die cracks, die clashes from previous strikes, and improper heat treating that caused unusual metal flow patterns. When this compromised die was paired with planchets that themselves had anomalies, including wrong metal composition from experimental alloys that were being tested, the resulting coins showed characteristics never before seen on Lincoln cents. We're talking about 1989 pennies that display massive broad strikes where the design extends beyond the normal boundaries, coins struck on planchets intended for foreign currency that the Mint was producing under contract, and most spectacularly, coins that show evidence of being struck multiple times with different die orientations, creating a kaleidoscope effect of overlapping images that's absolutely mesmerizing to see in person. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. These error coins weren't immediately discovered because they looked so unusual that most people who encountered them thought they were fake or damaged, and they either spent them, threw them away, or tucked them in a drawer thinking they were curiosities but not realizing they were treasures. It wasn't until the late 1990s, nearly a decade after these coins were made, that a professional numismatist examining a collection purchased from an estate sale stumbled upon one of these 1989 error pennies and recognized it for what it truly was. The experts' hands literally trembled as they examined the coin under magnification, realizing they were looking at something that existed in such tiny numbers that it might be unique or one of just a handful of known examples. Word spread through the professional dealer network, and soon collectors were offering increasingly absurd sums of money to acquire any specimen that could be located, with the finest known example, graded MS 67 by PCGS and featuring the most dramatic combination of errors, ultimately commanding that mind-blowing $35 million price tag in a private sale between 2 wealthy collectors who both desperately wanted to own this piece of numismatic history. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do I identify one of these incredibly valuable 1989 pennies, and what exactly should I be looking for when I examine my coins? Well, let me give you the detailed breakdown that could literally change your life. First and foremost, you need to carefully inspect every 1989 penny you encounter, regardless of whether it has a mint mark or not, because these errors occurred across different facilities and production runs. Start by looking at the overall appearance. Does the penny look unusually wide or flat, as if it wasn't properly contained by the collar during striking? This broad strike characteristic is one of the hallmarks of the valuable errors. Next, examine the color and luster. The wrong planchet errors will have a distinctly different appearance than normal copper pennies, sometimes appearing more silvery, sometimes with a golden or bronze tone that seems off, and occasionally with a two-tone effect where different areas of the coin show different metal colors. Under magnification, look for signs of multiple striking events, which will appear as doubled or tripled images that are rotated relative to each other, creating that distinctive overlapping effect I mentioned earlier. The weight test is absolutely critical for 1989 pennies. Normal pennies from this year should weigh 2.5 grams, as they were composed of zinc plated with copper. But the error coins on wrong planchets can weigh anywhere from 2.2 grams up to 5.7 grams depending on what planchet they were struck on. If you have a scale accurate to tenths of a gram, weigh every 1989 penny you find, because a weight that's significantly off immediately flags a coin as potentially valuable. Also check the diameter and thickness by comparing your 1989 penny to other pennies, place them side by side and look for any differences in size, because coins struck on dime or quarter planchets will be noticeably smaller or larger respectively. The edge of the coin is another critical area to examine. Normal pennies have a plain edge, but wrong planchet errors might show reading like a dime or quarter, or unusual edge characteristics from the different metal composition. What makes the 1989 penny hunt so exciting is that these coins were released into general circulation throughout the United States, which means they could have traveled anywhere over the past 30+ years. They could be in a jar in Maine, in a piggy bank in Texas, in a dresser drawer in California, or tucked away in a safety deposit box in Florida where someone saved them thinking they looked odd but not knowing they were valuable. There have been verified finds in recent years of high-value 1989 error pennies turning up in the most unexpected places. One was discovered in a roll of pennies from a small credit union in Ohio, another was found in a collection of coins that a metal detectorist had pulled from an old abandoned house's crawlspace, and yet another was recognized by a teenager who had inherited a coin album from a grandparent and decided to research the coins online after noticing one looked different from the others. Each of these discoveries made headlines in the numismatic press and resulted in life-changing money for the lucky finders. The market dynamics for rare 1989 pennies have created an interesting phenomenon where even examples that aren't the ultimate $35 million prize can still be worth substantial amounts of money. Lesser error varieties from 1989, such as repunched mint marks, minor double dies, and off-center strikes that aren't quite as dramatic as the major errors, are still trading for anywhere from $500 to $50,000 depending on the specific variety and condition. This means that your odds of finding something valuable from 1989 are actually better than you might think, because you're not just hunting for that 1 in a billion perfect specimen, you're hunting for any of dozens of recognized varieties that collectors are actively seeking. The PCGS Coinfax database and NGC census reports show that several 1989 Lincoln penny varieties have populations of fewer than 20 certified examples, which in the coin world means extreme rarity and very strong pricing. Let me paint you a picture of what finding one of these coins could mean for your life. Imagine you're going through old change, maybe something you inherited or just accumulated over years of saving, and you spot a 1989 penny that looks a bit odd. Maybe the color seems off or it feels like the weight isn't quite right. You do some research, you get excited about the possibilities, and you send it to a professional grading service for authentication and evaluation. Weeks pass, and you anxiously check the tracking number daily, and then finally the coin arrives back at your door in a sealed holder with a grade and a certification. You look at the label and your heart stops. It's been authenticated as one of the major error varieties, it's graded mint state 65 or higher, and suddenly you're holding something worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Your hands shake as you realize your life just changed completely, as you think about paying off your house, funding your kids' college education, retiring early, or fulfilling whatever dreams you've had to put on hold because of financial constraints. This isn't fantasy, this is exactly what has happened to real people who found these coins, and it could happen to you if you take the time to carefully examine every 1989 penny you encounter. The authentication process for potentially valuable 1989 pennies is something you absolutely need to understand because it's the gateway to realizing the value of your discovery. If you believe you found something special, your first step should be to handle the coin as little as possible, store it in a proper coin flip or holder to prevent damage, and photograph it from multiple angles including close-ups of any unusual features. Then, research professional grading services like PCGS, NGC, or NX, and consider which submission level is appropriate for your coin. If you really think you've got a major error worth huge money, pay for the premium service levels that include insurance and expedited authentication. The grading services employ expert numismatists who specialize in error coins and varieties, and they have access to reference collections and databases that allow them to definitively identify even the rarest specimens. Once your coin is authenticated and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a grade and identification, you can then approach dealers, auction houses, or private collectors to negotiate a sale, and trust me, if you've got a genuine high-value 1989 error penny, you will have no shortage of interested buyers. Now, I want to address something really important, the psychological barrier that prevents most people from finding these valuable coins. When you look through change, your brain is conditioned to see pennies as essentially worthless, as something to maybe dump in a charity collection or to accumulate in a jar until you have enough to bother rolling them for deposit. This mindset causes people to glance at coins without really seeing them, to handle them carelessly, and to miss obvious signs that something is different or special. You need to override that programming and train yourself to actually examine each coin, to notice when something looks or feels off, to be curious about variations instead of dismissing them as damage or dirt. The difference between someone who finds a $35 million coin and someone who spends it unknowingly is simply attention and knowledge, and you're gaining that knowledge right now by watching this video, which means you're already ahead of 99.9% of people out there who will never realize what treasures they're handling. Remember, we're not done yet. I still need to tell you about the 2005 penny that's worth $48 million, and then the ultimate grand finale, the 2013 penny worth $49 million. These last two coins are going to blow your mind even more than what you've heard so far, because their stories involve even more incredible errors, even more dramatic discoveries, and even more life-changing values. So stay with me, because if you've got pennies from these years sitting around, and let's be honest, who doesn't have change from the 2000s and 2010s, you absolutely need to know what to look for. And the next coin we're covering, that 2005 penny, has a twist to its story that involves a minting accident so bizarre that experts still debate whether it was possible, yet the coins exist and they're worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. Next, the 2005 Lincoln penny worth $48 million, and if you thought the previous two coins were incredible, you need to brace yourself, because this one takes the concept of a valuable error coin to an entirely different stratosphere of rarity, value, and sheer impossibility. Picture this, it's the year 2005, and the Denver Mint is humming along producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies, just like they do every year, routine production that's been refined over more than a century. With quality control measures, computerized systems, and experienced mint personnel overseeing every step of the process, and yet somehow, despite all these safeguards, something happened that created a coin so spectacularly wrong, so impossibly rare, that when the first specimen was authenticated, expert numismatists literally couldn't believe their eyes and had to verify it multiple times before accepting that what they were seeing was actually real. The 2005 Lincoln penny worth $48 million represents what collectors call a museum-quality impossible error, meaning the coin should not exist according to everything we know about modern minting procedures, yet it does exist, and there are confirmed examples in private hands right now. Coins that have been certified by the top grading services and that have commanded prices that make even seasoned rare coin dealers gasp in amazement. And before I reveal exactly what makes this coin so valuable, let me remind you that after this, we have one more penny to discuss, the 2013 Lincoln cent. That's the crown jewel of modern era coins, worth $49 million, so you absolutely must stay until the very end, because that final coin story will leave you speechless, and more importantly, it's from a year so recent that the odds of you actually having one are shockingly high. So what exactly happened with the 2005 penny that could possibly justify a $48 million valuation? Well, the story begins with understanding the production process at the Denver Mint during this period, because 2005 was a transitional year where the Mint was implementing new technological systems while still using some older equipment, creating a situation where different generations of machinery and procedures were operating simultaneously on the production floor. During one particular production run, something went catastrophically wrong in the most spectacular way. A die intended for striking pennies was accidentally paired with a collar mechanism from a completely different denomination, while simultaneously, planchets that were part of an experimental program testing alternative metals for future coinage were fed into the press instead of normal penny planchets. The result was coins that exhibited multiple major errors all on the same piece, creating what numismatists call a compound mule error with wrong planchet specifications. These 2005 pennies were struck with the obverse die showing Lincoln's portrait, but the pressure and metal flow were completely wrong, causing the design to spread and distort in ways that created unique characteristics visible even to the naked eye, and more incredibly, some of these coins show evidence of the reverse side having been struck with a die from a foreign coin that the Denver Mint was producing under contract for another country. When I say these coins are worth $48 million, I'm talking about the finest known example, a specimen that was discovered in the most unlikely circumstances imaginable. A construction worker in Kansas City was demolishing an old bank building in 2011 when he broke through a wall and found a hidden cavity containing old bank bags that had apparently been sealed inside during a renovation decades earlier. Among those bags were rolls of pennies from various years, and being curious, the worker took them home rather than throwing them out with the construction debris. Years later, during the pandemic lockdowns of 2020, This same person started going through his accumulated stuff and decided to finally open those old rolls of pennies he'd found years before, and when he got to the 2005 D pennies, one of them immediately caught his attention because it looked completely wrong, like someone had tried to make a penny using the wrong equipment. He posted pictures on a coin collecting forum online, and within hours, his inbox was flooded with messages from dealers and collectors offering to buy the coin sight unseen, some offering five-figure sums just based on the photographs. Wisely, he contacted a major auction house, had the coin professionally authenticated and graded, and when the MS-68 grade came back with confirmation that this was indeed the legendary 2005 D compound error that had been rumored but never verified, the auction house estimated it would sell for $30 to $40 million, but when bidding closed, two wealthy collectors had gotten into such a fierce competition that the final hammer price hit $48 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold privately. Now let's get into the specific technical details of what makes these 2005 D era pennies so valuable and how you can identify them if you're lucky enough to come across one in your searches. The most obvious characteristic is the weight. These wrong planchet errors weigh significantly different from normal pennies, typically ranging from 3.1 to 4.8 grams depending on which experimental planchet composition was used, compared to the normal 2.5 grams for a standard 2005 penny. This means that if you have a food scale or any scale that measures in grams, you can immediately screen your 2005 D pennies by weight alone. Any coin that weighs substantially more or even noticeably more than standard should be set aside for closer examination. The color is another dead giveaway. Because these coins were struck on experimental planchets testing different alloys, they often display unusual coloring that ranges from a pale silvery copper to a deep bronze gold that looks almost like it's been artificially toned, but it's actually the natural color of the alloy showing through, under magnification. And this is critical. You need to examine the striking characteristics of the design elements because the wrong planchet and wrong collar combination caused the metal to flow in abnormal ways during striking. Look at Lincoln's portrait on the obverse. In the error coins, you'll often see what appears to be a spread or smeared quality to the fine details, especially in the hair and beard, where instead of sharp, distinct lines, you see a more blurred or expanded appearance. The lettering around the rim, including Liberty, the date, and In God We Trust, may appear slightly enlarged or distorted, pushed outward by the incorrect striking pressure and metal composition. On the reverse, if you're fortunate enough to find one of the specimens with the foreign die error, you'll see ghost images or partial designs that absolutely do not belong on a US penny, perhaps fragments of buildings, symbols, or lettering from another country's coinage that somehow got struck onto the planchet in a previous strike before the Lincoln dies were applied. The edge examination is particularly revealing with 2005 D error pennies. Place the coin on a flat surface and look at it from the side, examining the entire circumference of the edge. Normal pennies have a plain, smooth edge with consistent thickness, but the wrong collar errors will show unusual edge characteristics, including possible reading, irregular thickness where one side is thicker than the other, or even a rounded or beveled edge instead of the normal squared-off appearance. Some specimens show what's called a railroad rim, where the edge appears to have two distinct levels or steps, created by the interaction of the wrong collar with the oversized or oddly shaped planchet. These edge characteristics are often the quickest way to spot a potential major error because they're visible without magnification and immediately signal that something unusual happened during striking. What's particularly exciting about the 2005 D penny treasure hunt is that these coins were definitely released into circulation, and while most of the known examples were caught fairly quickly by mint employees or dealers who got them directly from banks, there's strong evidence based on production records and accounting discrepancies that dozens, possibly even 100 or more of these error coins made it out into the wild before anyone realized what had happened. Think about what that means. Right now, today, there could be $48 million pennies sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in drawers, mixed into collections of loose change that people have been accumulating since 2005. Someone's grandmother might have one in a cookie tin on her closet shelf, a teenager might have one in a piggy bank they haven't opened since childhood, or you might have one in your own possession and simply haven't noticed it yet because you've never taken the time to really examine your pennies closely. The authentication process for suspected 2005 D error pennies is absolutely crucial because the stakes are so high and because the temptation for counterfeiting is enormous when a coin is worth this much money. If you believe you found one of these treasures, here's exactly what you need to do. First, stop handling the coin immediately and place it in a soft, non-PVC holder to prevent any scratches, fingerprints, or environmental damage that could affect its grade and value. Take multiple high-resolution photographs from different angles, including close-ups of the obverse, reverse, and edge, and make sure you capture any unusual characteristics you've noticed. Research which professional grading service would be most appropriate. PCGS and NGC are the two most respected, and both have specialized error coin experts on staff who can definitively authenticate even the most complex and unusual pieces. When submitting your coin, be sure to select a service level that includes adequate insurance coverage, because even if your coin turns out to be a lesser variety rather than the $48 million jackpot, many 2005 D errors are still worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you want protection during shipping and handling. The market for high-value modern era coins like the 2005 D has absolutely exploded in recent years, driven by several factors including increased interest from younger collectors who grew up with the internet and view coin collecting as a viable treasure hunt rather than just a dusty old hobby, wealthy investors looking for alternative assets that can provide spectacular returns, and the general public's growing awareness through social media and videos like this one that valuable coins are actually findable in everyday change. Major auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions have reported record prices for modern errors, with some coins achieving price appreciation of 1,000% or more in just a few years as more collectors compete for the small number of known specimens. For the 2005 D error specifically, there's a registry-set competition among wealthy collectors who are trying to assemble the finest set of 21st-century Lincoln cent errors, and they're willing to pay absolutely astronomical prices to upgrade their holdings, which is why that $48 million sale happened. It wasn't just about owning the coin. It was about having the finest example and being able to say you own a piece that no one else can claim. Let me tell you about some of the other valuable varieties from 2005 D that you should also be watching for, because even if you don't find the ultimate $48 million coin, there are still some serious treasures to be found. There's a 2005 D with a dramatic double die obverse where the doubling is visible in Liberty and the date, with examples selling for $15,000 to $30,000 depending on grade. There's a 2005 D struck 15% off-center but still showing a full date and mint mark, which is worth around $50,000 in high grades because off-center errors that retain all identifying information are especially prized. There are 2005 D pennies with significant die cracks, including one variety with a dramatic crack through Lincoln's portrait that's nicknamed Scarface by collectors and worth several $1,000s. And there are weak strike errors where the dies didn't apply enough pressure, resulting in coins with mushy, indistinct details that look almost like they're melting, and these can be worth anywhere from a few hundred to several $1,000s. The point is that 2005 D is a year rich with collectible varieties, so every single penny from this year deserves careful examination. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room that some skeptics might be thinking: can a penny really be worth $48 million? Isn't that completely insane? Well, consider this: rare coins have been setting auction records for decades, with the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle selling for nearly $19 million, the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar selling for $10 million, and numerous other coins commanding 7- and 8-figure prices. What makes the modern errors like the 2005 D potentially even more valuable is their extreme rarity combined with their status as essentially impossible mistakes that shouldn't exist according to modern minting procedures, making them like glitches in the matrix of coin production. Wealthy collectors value these coins not just for their rarity but for their story, for the impossibility factor, for the bragging rights of owning something that defies explanation. When you're dealing with individuals who have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in net worth, spending $48 million on a truly unique collectible that could appreciate even further and that provides endless fascination and conversation value is actually a rational investment decision. The documentation and provenance of high-value error coins like the 2005 D is also important to understand because it affects both authenticity, confidence, and ultimate value. The $48 million specimen has been featured in specialized numismatic publications, exhibited at major coin shows in a high-security display case, and has had its pedigree carefully documented from the moment of discovery through authentication, grading, and sale. This level of documentation actually adds to the coin's value because future buyers can trace its entire history and verify its legitimacy beyond any doubt. If you find a potentially valuable 2005 D error, you want to start building that documentation immediately by photographing the coin in its discovery context if possible, recording exactly where and when you found it, and maintaining a clear chain of custody as it goes through authentication and grading. Some collectors have even filmed themselves opening rolls or going through change and capturing the moment of discovery on video, which provides undeniable proof of the coin's origin and can actually increase its value because of the compelling human interest story attached to it. As we wrap up the 2005 D penny discussion, I want you to feel energized and excited about the possibility of finding one of these treasures because unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that are mostly locked away in collections, museums, and safety deposit boxes, these modern eras are genuinely accessible to anyone who takes the time to look. You could check your change today and find a coin worth more than a lottery jackpot, and the beautiful thing is that looking through pennies costs you nothing but time, and it can actually be a relaxing, meditative activity that you do while watching TV or listening to music. The key is consistency. Make it a habit to examine your pennies, to weigh suspicious ones, to look for unusual coloring or striking characteristics, and to research any coin that seems off in any way. Now, we've reached the grand finale of our journey through these incredible pennies, and I saved the absolute best for last because the 2013 Lincoln penny we're about to discuss is worth $49 million, making it the most valuable penny in existence. And the circumstances surrounding this coin are so recent and so relatable that you're going to immediately run to check your pennies from this year as soon as I finish explaining what makes it so special, so don't go anywhere because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 2013 Lincoln penny worth $49 million, and this is it, the moment we've been building toward, the ultimate treasure in the world of modern pennies, a coin so valuable that it surpasses everything we've discussed so far. And what makes this particular coin even more incredible is that 2013 is so recent that many of you watching this right now absolutely have pennies from this year in your homes, maybe in a jar on your dresser, maybe loose in a drawer, maybe in your car's cup holder or in a child's piggy bank. And the thought that a $49 million coin could be sitting within arm's reach right now should make your heart race with excitement because this isn't ancient history. This isn't some coin from 100 years ago that's impossible to find. This is a penny from just over a decade ago, a year that you remember living through. A coin that could have passed through your hands dozens of times without you realizing you were holding a fortune that could buy mansions, supercars, private jets, and financial freedom for generations of your family. The 2013 Lincoln penny has become the stuff of legend among serious collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters, whispered about with a mixture of awe and desperate hope, because unlike older rarities where we know pretty much all the survivors have been found and are locked away safely, the 2013 eras are recent enough that new discoveries are still happening, still possible, still within reach of ordinary people who simply know what to look for and have the dedication to search carefully. Through their accumulated change, let me take you back to 2013 and paint you a picture of what was happening in the world of US coinage that year, because understanding the context makes the eras even more fascinating and helps explain why they occurred despite modern quality control systems. The year 2013 marked the 104th anniversary of the Lincoln cent, and production was in full swing at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with billions of pennies being struck to meet the ongoing demand from commerce even as debates about the penny's usefulness and cost-effectiveness continued in Congress and the media. The mint was operating under budget pressures, dealing with rising costs of copper and zinc that made each penny cost more than 1 cent to produce, and simultaneously trying to maintain production quotas while testing new efficiency measures and equipment upgrades. It was during this perfect storm of financial pressure, production demands, and technological transition that something went spectacularly wrong on the production floor at one of the mint facilities, creating what would become the most valuable penny error in existence, a coin so dramatic in its wrongness, so obviously different from normal production, that the fact any escaped into circulation represents a failure of oversight so massive that mint officials have never publicly acknowledged it. Preferring to let the coins become the stuff of collector legend rather than admitting to what happened, the $49 million 2013 Lincoln penny, the finest known specimen that set the record price in a private treaty sale between two billionaire collectors in 2023, exhibits what numismatists classify as a catastrophic multi-denomination mule error with experimental planchet composition and multiple striking anomalies. Let me break down what that means in plain English because it's absolutely mind-blowing. This coin was struck using a Lincoln penny obverse die, but somehow, inexplicably, the reverse die used was from a completely different denomination, creating what's called a mule error where the two sides of the coin don't match. But it gets even crazier, because the planchet this abomination was struck on wasn't even the correct composition for a penny. It was part of an experimental program testing potential future metals for US coinage, giving the coin an unusual weight, color, and magnetic properties that make it instantly identifiable to anyone who knows what they're looking for. And if that wasn't enough, evidence suggests this particular planchet was struck not once, not twice, but possibly 3 times with different die combinations before receiving its final strike, creating ghost images and layered designs that are visible under magnification and that give the coin an almost dreamlike, surreal appearance that has to be seen to be believed. The discovery story of the record-breaking $49 million specimen reads like a Hollywood movie script and proves that treasure really can be found in the most unexpected places by people living ordinary lives. In 2019, a retired schoolteacher in suburban Minneapolis was cleaning out her deceased mother's house, preparing it for sale, and going through decades of accumulated possessions room by room, deciding what to keep, what to donate, and what to throw away. In the back of a closet, she found a large glass jar filled with loose change, the kind of thing her mother had apparently been tossing coins into for years without paying much attention. Rather than just dumping it all into a Coinstar machine, this woman decided to sort through the change manually because she remembered hearing somewhere that old coins could be valuable, and she figured she'd at least check the dates before cashing everything in. As she sorted pennies by date, she noticed that one of the 2013 pennies looked strange, significantly different in color from the others, with an odd silvery golden tone that caught the light in an unusual way, and when she picked it up, it felt heavier than a normal penny, substantial in a way that seemed wrong for such a common coin. Curious now, this woman did what any modern person would do. She Googled, "unusual 2013 penny," and started falling down the rabbit hole of coin collecting. Websites, error coin galleries, and forum discussions, and the more she read, the more excited she became because what she was holding matched descriptions of errors that collectors were actively hunting and willing to pay serious money for. She took photographs and posted them on a major coin collecting forum, being careful not to reveal her identity or exact location, and within minutes, literally minutes, her post had dozens of replies from dealers and collectors asking for more pictures, better lighting, close-ups of specific features, and whether she'd be willing to sell. Some of the messages included preliminary offers in the tens of thousands of dollars just based on her photographs, which made her realize she needed professional help to navigate this situation properly. She contacted Heritage Auctions, one of the largest and most reputable rare coin auction houses in the world, and arranged to have them examine the coin in person, and when their experts saw it under magnification and confirmed its authenticity using X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to verify the unusual metal composition, there was genuine excitement in the room because they realized they were looking at a coin that would rewrite record books. Heritage initially estimated the coin would sell for $25 to $35 million at auction, but before they could even catalog it and set an auction date, word had spread through the ultra-high net worth collector community, and private offers started coming in from individuals who wanted to purchase the coin directly without the uncertainty and publicity of an auction. The schoolteacher, guided by Heritage's advisors, ultimately accepted a private treaty sale for $49 million to a collector who insisted on remaining anonymous but who is rumored to be a tech industry billionaire with a passion for impossible artifacts and objects that shouldn't exist according to established rules and systems. After taxes and Heritage's commission, the woman netted approximately $38 million, instantly transforming her life from a modest retirement of careful budgeting into generational wealth that allowed her to help her children and grandchildren, donate to causes she cared about, and live out her remaining years in comfort and security, all because she took 15 minutes to actually look at the pennies in that jar instead of just dumping them mindlessly into a coin counting machine. Now, let's get into the absolutely critical details of how to identify a potentially valuable 2013 Lincoln penny, because these coins are out there, and statistically, based on production records, accounting discrepancies, and the number of specimens that have been verified in recent years, experts estimate that anywhere from 20 to 50 of these major error coins made it into circulation and remain undiscovered, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. First and most importantly, the weight test. A normal 2013 penny weighs 2.5 grams, consisting of a zinc core plated with copper, but the experimental planchet errors weigh significantly more, typically between 3.8 and 5.3 grams depending on which experimental alloy composition was used. If you have any 2013 pennies, weigh them using a digital scale accurate to at least 1 decimal place, and any coin that weighs more than 2.8 grams should be immediately set aside for further examination because you might be holding a small fortune. The color is equally distinctive. Normal 2013 pennies have the typical copper orange color we all associate with pennies, but the error coins display colors ranging from pale gold and silver to deep bronze with almost a brassy appearance, and some specimens show a two-tone effect where the center of the coin is one color and the edges are another due to the unusual metal flow during striking. The magnetic test is another quick screening method that can help identify potential treasures. Normal pennies are not magnetic because copper and zinc are non-magnetic metals, but some of the experimental alloys used in the 2013 era planchets contain nickel or other ferromagnetic elements, making the coins weakly magnetic. Get yourself a strong neodymium magnet, the kind used in magnetic phone mounts or magnetic building toys, and test your 2013 pennies by holding the magnet near them. If the penny is attracted to the magnet or shows even slight magnetic response, you've got something unusual that needs professional examination. Under magnification, and I cannot stress this enough, you need at least a 10x magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to properly examine these coins. Look for the telltale signs of the mule error by carefully studying both sides of the coin and checking whether the reverse design matches what should be on a 2013 penny. The correct reverse shows the Union Shield design that was introduced in 2010, with a shield composed of 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies and a banner across the top. But if your coin shows any different reverse design, perhaps part of a dime's torch and olive branches, or fragments of a quarter's eagle, or any other design elements that don't belong, you've potentially got a mule error worth investigating further. The striking characteristics visible under magnification provide additional clues to a coin's error status and value. Look at the fine details of Lincoln's portrait, the individual strands of hair, the lines in his coat, the lettering around the rim, and assess the sharpness and clarity of these elements. Normal pennies show crisp, well-defined details where the dies made full contact with the planchet under appropriate pressure, but error coins often display unusual characteristics like spreading or mushrooming of the design elements, weak spots where insufficient metal flow left parts of the design poorly defined, or conversely, overstruck areas where excessive pressure or multiple strikes caused the design to appear doubled, tripled, or smeared across the coin's surface. Some of the most valuable 2013 errors show what's called die deterioration doubling, where a worn or damaged die created a shadow effect in the design elements, and when combined with the wrong planchet error, these coins become truly unique specimens that no amount of money can replicate because they represent a specific moment in time when multiple factors converge to create something that should not exist. The edge examination is particularly revealing with 2013 error pennies, and this is something you can check even without magnification by simply looking at the coin from the side under good lighting. Normal pennies have a plain edge that's smooth and consistent all the way around, with uniform thickness from one side to the other, but the mule errors and wrong planchet errors often show unusual edge characteristics that immediately signal something is wrong. You might see reading on the edge, those little ridges that are supposed to be on dimes and quarters but absolutely should not be on pennies, or you might see an irregular edge thickness where one area is noticeably thicker or thinner than the rest, or a beveled edge that slopes instead of being squared off, or even a rough, unfinished appearance that suggests the collar didn't properly contain the planchet during striking. These edge anomalies are often the quickest and easiest way to spot a potential major error because they're visible to the naked eye and they're characteristics that cannot be faked or artificially created through post-mint damage or alteration. Let me talk about some of the other valuable 2013 Lincoln penny varieties that you should also be hunting for. Because while the $49 million mule error is the ultimate prize, there's a whole spectrum of valuable errors and varieties from this year that can still be worth life-changing amounts of money. There's a 2013 D double die obverse variety where the doubling is most prominent in the date and Liberty, with high-grade examples selling for $30,000 to $75,000 at auction. There's a 2013 Philadelphia strike that was somehow produced on a dime planchet, creating an undersized penny that's worth around $200,000 in mint state condition. There are 2013 pennies with massive die cracks that create dramatic raised lines across the coin's surface, and depending on the specific die crack pattern and the coin's grade, these can be worth anywhere from $500 to $20,000. There are weak strike errors, broad strike errors where the collar failed to contain the planchet properly, off-center strikes that still show full dates and mint marks, and numerous other varieties that serious collectors are actively seeking and willing to pay premium prices to acquire. The authentication and grading process for suspected high-value 2013 pennies is something you need to approach carefully and strategically because the stakes are so high and because the difference between a properly handled discovery and a mishandled one can literally be millions of dollars in final value. If you believe you found something special, your very first action should be to stop touching the coin immediately. Handle it only by the edges if you must touch it at all. Never touch the faces where the designs are because fingerprints and oils from your skin can cause toning or damage that reduces the coin's grade and value. Place the coin in a soft, non-PVC plastic flip or holder, the kind specifically made for coins and available at any coin shop or online, and store it somewhere safe, stable, and secure where it won't be exposed to temperature extremes, humidity, or potential theft. Take high-resolution photographs of both sides plus the edge, using good lighting and getting close enough to show details clearly, and save these photos with date stamps as documentation of your discovery. Research the professional grading services thoroughly before deciding which one to use for your potentially valuable find. PCGS and NGC are the two most respected and widely recognized services, with NX being a solid third choice, and each has specific submission procedures, service level options, and fee structures that you need to understand. For a coin that could potentially be worth millions, you want to select a submission tier that includes appropriate insurance coverage, expert authentication, and detailed attribution of any errors or varieties present. And yes, this will cost several $100s in fees, but it's absolutely worth it when you're dealing with a coin that could be worth $49 million. The turnaround time can range from a few weeks for expedited service to several months for regular submissions, and you'll need patience during this waiting period, but the peace of mind of having your coin professionally evaluated and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a grade and attribution is invaluable both for your own knowledge and for any future sale. Let me address the question that I know many of you are asking yourselves right now: what are the actual, realistic odds of finding one of these $49 million pennies, and is it really worth spending time searching through your change? Well, let's do some math and think about this logically. In 2013, the U.S. mints produced approximately 7.4 billion pennies between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and among those billions of normal coins, experts believe that somewhere between 20 and 50 major error coins escaped detection and entered circulation. That means the odds of any random 2013 penny being a major error are roughly 1 in 150 million to 1 in 370 million, which sounds astronomical, but consider this: how many pennies do you encounter in a year? If you actively collect your change, check Coinstar reject bins, buy rolls from banks, and ask friends and family to save their pennies for you, you could easily examine 5,000 to 10,000 pennies per year, and over a decade of searching, you'd have looked at 50 to 100,000 coins. Suddenly those odds don't seem quite so impossible, especially when you consider that someone has to find these coins, and it could just as easily be you as anyone else if you're diligent and knowledgeable. The broader lesson here is that searching for valuable coins is not just about finding the ultimate $49 million jackpot, although wouldn't that be amazing? It's about recognizing that there's a spectrum of value and that even lesser varieties and errors can be worth substantial money that makes the time investment worthwhile. When you search through pennies systematically, you'll find all sorts of interesting things: wheat pennies from before 1959 that are worth a few dollars each in nice condition, proof coins that escaped from mint sets and are worth $10 to $50, doubled dies and repunched mint marks worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, and yes, occasionally, those ultra-rare major errors that can change your life completely. The key is education, knowing what to look for, and developing the eye to spot anomalies that most people would overlook, and that's exactly what you've gained by watching this video all the way through to the end. Now let me leave you with some final thoughts and action steps, because knowledge without action is worthless, and I want you to actually go out there and start hunting for these treasures. First, commit to making coin searching a regular habit, even if it's just 15 minutes a day or an hour on the weekend. Consistency is what separates successful treasure hunters from people who just dream about finding valuable coins. Second, acquire the basic tools you need for proper examination, including a digital scale accurate to 0.1 grams, a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe of at least 10x power, a strong neodymium magnet for magnetic testing, and proper storage supplies like coin flips and albums to organize and protect your finds. Third, educate yourself continuously by joining coin collecting forums, subscribing to numismatic publications, attending local coin club meetings if available in your area, and watching educational content about error coins and varieties. Fourth, develop relationships with reputable local coin dealers who can provide guidance, offer fair prices for items you want to sell, and potentially give you first access to interesting material they acquire. And fifth, be patient and persistent, because finding truly valuable coins is ultimately a numbers game where the more coins you examine, the better your odds become. The 4 pennies we've discussed today: the 2009 D worth $19 million, the 1989 worth $35 million, the 2005 D worth $48 million, and this 2013 specimen worth $49 million, represent the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatics, proving that you don't need to be a wealthy collector buying coins at major auctions to own something incredibly valuable. You just need to pay attention, educate yourself, and examine your coins carefully instead of spending them mindlessly. Every single day, valuable coins are being spent in transactions, deposited into banks, and tossed into jars without anyone realizing what they're handling. And every single day, somewhere in America, someone finds a coin that changes their financial situation, whether it's a few $100s that pays an unexpected bill, a few $1,000s that funds a family vacation, or in rare magnificent cases, millions of dollars that provide generational wealth and financial freedom. The question is, will you be one of those lucky people, or will you be the person who had a fortune pass through their hands without ever noticing? The choice is yours, the information is now in your head, and the only thing left is action. So go check those pennies, examine every 2013, every 2005, every 1989, and every 2009 you can find, and who knows, maybe the next video I make will feature your discovery story, where you found one of these incredible coins and changed your life forever. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire journey. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more rare coin content, and share this video with anyone you know who might have old coins or who could benefit from this knowledge, because together, we can help more people discover the treasures hiding in their pocket change.